welcome back to the Agentic Quality Podcast. Podcast where we talk about AI adoption and how we can use AI in quality to make ourselves more effective and efficient. And today I have a guest with us, Ronak Ray, who is a VP of Platform Stability and AI Operation at Forbes. And I'm super excited to talk to him today about how they're using AI in their software delivery processes. Welcome, Ronak.
Thank you, Tatyana. I'm super excited to be here and happy to be here.
And let's start with your career journey and what do you do right now? What is your role and how did you get there?
Yeah, so it's been a long journey and very organic journey in the quality assurance space I've been for a long time. So I started my career as an intern in software testing and then organically grew as a man from a manual tester to automation engineer to a lead to manager to director, senior director, and now vice president. So currently I run 3 organizations within Forbes. One is quality assurance organization, other is DevOps, which we bundle that together into platform stability. And then the third one, which is an ongoing topic, is the AI operation, where my role is to how do we can operationalize AI and build tooling, which will help organization to work more efficient, internal organization to work more efficient and better.
And that's exciting to hear that you're already using AI and you're adopting it actively. And this is what we'd like to share with our users. So can you tell us what do you use AI for in your software delivery processes?
Yeah, across the organization, Forbes is known to be very forward-thinking organization. We were very early adopter in the past as well. Like in '99, we were one of the first publisher to even have a website in early 2000. So out of different publishers. So we are very forward thinking of how we think AI. And a few examples how we use AI at current organization is one is code level augmentation. We use AI really well. We help us for our CI/CD intelligence. We use AI for. Our QA team is heavily invested in using AI to make them more efficient and better. They use it more as an assistant for them. So now each QA member has 3 or 4 people who work for them, which are practically an agents which do their work. We use it for platform validation. So basically we structure AI to validate our things which we built and make sure that we are using it, building it for the right audience. So using it a lot, we use AI a lot for brainstorming. And the last and not the least, our DevOps team is uses for observability, for incident response, and the other factors. So in a nutshell, we use AI in most every single day-to-day activities of ours, but we are very cognizant of where AI does really good job and where AI does not, and then we are very careful about how we can leverage AI the best.
Yeah. And where do you think it doesn't do a good job? Like, what are some of the concerns or problems you run into with using AI?
Yeah, I fall right into it, right? Because
that was my next question anyway.
right. So I think AI today is fundamentally probabilistic. So it's not very deterministic right now. So it does a really good job of analyzing massive amount of data. But what it does not do a good job is understanding a business context. You need to provide that lot of repetitive contextual information for getting the right answer. It can hallucinate and probably can end up getting an incorrect code as well and struggle with deeply stateful or domain heavy logic. And it cannot independently define risk tolerance. It will generally make you happy and whatever you ask, it will tell you the yes sir answer. So from our perspective, our biggest limitation is a lot of system level mental model, which we need to build ourselves to make sure that AI has enough context and enough background to do the job very well. And it cannot inherently evaluate certain things like UX nuances, very ethical implications, brand impact, editorial integrity, and all those factors AI doesn't do a really good job. It really helps us to accelerate artifacts, but we need humans to define correctness.
Yeah, and that is good to hear that we still need humans. And the humans are going to be adapting to the new skill set. Like you said, you're already managing these multiple, agents as a peers basically or reports to you, right? So how do you see the skills that are required to orchestrate these agents change for the engineers with AI adoption?
Yeah, I think the mindset needs to change first of all. Like all the professionals needs to be change thinking from executioner to more of an orchestrator, at least from the quality assurance perspective as well, like where my domain expertise is, where they need to change from execution to orchestration 100%. They should start their skills practically should include critical system thinking, understanding how their architecture is built, like microservices, API, database, the client side of the layer, how they are built together. They need to have a good AI literacy. And what I mean by AI literacy is that they should know the model limitation, what type of prompt they should structure, and if there is a hallucination risk on that. You cannot give it full autonomy to AI. That there is a danger there because you need to have humans and guardrails in check for every action you do and then use it as your advantage. And you also really need AI. Another thing which I think for AI, human or we should build the skill set which is also designing a framework well enough which we can use AI to the fullest. So what I feel like the future of a skill set, it looks like where we become an architect and AI will become the executioner.
Yeah, exactly. So we do need some understanding of AI, LLMs, and how they work skills, right? We need the prompting skills. We still need critical thinking skills, and then orchestration skills, which is kind of like managing a team
Right.
of agents, or
Exactly what you said. Like we need to AI can spit out 1,000 lines of code, but is it doing the right thing what we really want? Which is why the AI literacy is important. You ask the right question. You only have a smaller context window, so it does a pretty good job of what it gets back to you. But then also build the right thing. So you should also have a lot of business context, business knowledge around what you're asking it to do. So that's also really important.
And I'm curious, as you're using AI for code generation and test generation, right? Do you also find that it speeds up your overall delivery, like optimizes how, fast and efficiently you can deploy to production? And is that a direct correlation or not?
So faster delivery is a direct correlation of how AI can amplify the work you're doing. It can accelerate super fast, but at the same time, it can also increase a lot of bottlenecks. So I was just reading an article this morning where it says that AI can solve a lot of tech debt, but it also increase a lot of tech debt as well because it can. It's on the flip side, it will spit out 1,500 lines of code. We were in a hackathon this weekend, or the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There was a team hackathon we were working on, and I built a project which wrote 14,000 lines of code, all wipe coding, and I was just giving it work, and the finished product looks so good. But when you review the code, you feel like, oh, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be changed. There are a lot of code quality issues which come out of that. So we need to, and then a lot of repetitive code as well. So it's hard to maintain that much level of code, which is why it's the best way to use AI and those tools is ask it to do the smallest task possible. You architect the system, ask it to do one thing at a time. Don't give it really big prompt saying, go nuts and build me a login page. But ask it, give me a login page with an input field, then the password field has this requirement for each of it, and then be more structured or to ask and how it gets back, and then check every work it is doing. So it's easier to maintain and it understands your code base much better.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right that it creates bottlenecks. And especially with the code reviews, like if you generate a bunch of code and then it has to be reviewed by your team, then your team is stuck reviewing all of the AI code, and that slows down,
Right.
So, have you find any solutions for issues like this in your workflows?
Yeah, so we use AI to review our code as well. So we have a coding agent which will review the code which spits out. It does a really good job in doing static analysis, understanding the code structure, if there's an efficient way of doing it. But that's how we are solving it, that AI reviewing AI generated code, and it does a decent job understanding the context. What we have struggled with is making sure that it is doing the right thing, or it is reusing the existing function, it keeps the code dry, it's not repeating itself. That's where we see the struggle. But the way we are solving it is that having another agent review the code which is generated by AI itself. because 1,000 lines of code reviewing by human is practically impossible to be very thorough. But AI does a pretty good job. But then you need to prompt that AI code review agent to do the right thing, ask it to have enough context and background information to look at all the existing code base and what the good practice look like, what the bad practice look like, what our coding standards are. And that reduces our work by 50%.
Yeah.
And then and a lot of things also work with training and coaching. So we train our engineers and our QA team members to where to use AI, how to use AI, and what prompt to use. So we heavily invested in training across our organization, not just engineering, but across the org, so that they understand like what AI does a really good job, and then how where they can leverage AI more and not the other way around.
Yeah. And that is so important to up-level your engineers, because I know companies where they don't have time to up-level, but they're expected to learn it all on their own, right? And there's no training or whatnot provided. So it's amazing that you invest into up-leveling your employees. And so talking about how time it saves you, so you mentioned 50%, time savings. And so what's some of the other metrics that you use to measure how effective AI adoption is in your teams?
Yeah, that depends on different domain area, but if we focus more on engineering for this exercise perspective, the key metrics which I really look at is how much test generation time it is reducing. So generally, the test case generation takes significant time initially when the tester goes to the requirement, write the test. Now with the use of AI assist tools, it can save significant time from them to write test cases and figure out all the different edge cases. Just have to review it, read through it, make sense, accept, deny, or prompt more to get better response. So test generation time reduction. Second one, which is I think you cannot measure in percentage, but this is really crucial, is effective coverage, how effective your test is. Because you can write hundreds of test cases, but how effective those tests are, that's very subjective. So that's increase in effectiveness. The reduction in the escape defects. This is where add value to the business of how many defects are we introducing with this AI assisted testing, for example. And from the engineering side, because of my DevOps and our release capability, thing which be really important is the MTTR, mean time to resolution improvement. How faster we are, if the defects is there, how fast we are fixing it. Because of this AI agents which can write more efficient code now, the gap between a junior and a senior engineer reducing significantly now. So they can write more efficient code but much faster as well. There are a bunch of other factors like PR cycle time, flaky test reduction, incident triage correlation, and a bunch of those factors. But again, as I mentioned, based on the domain you're looking at, so if you're using it for coding perspective as a coding assistant or a testing assistant, your success criteria differ versus anything else you're using it for. So it depends on your domain to be specific. But at the end of the day, it should solve the business outcome. Whatever you're trying to achieve as a business, if it's solving it for that need, half the battle is won there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And as you were adopting AI in your organization, you had to up-level your employee. But what are some of the other barriers that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so the barriers are very technical, to be honest. They are all organizational. They are all cultural resistance people feel. Every organization have different barriers, but that the way to solve this, and again, I'm going to the solution aspect, but what some of the barriers which we feel is the mindset, the cultural, there are concerns around security and compliance concerns that, my data is safe, what I'm searching is my organization, admin have access to what I'm searching and I'm prompting. So people have concerns about using AI for that. So we need to, and I will call about how to solve those in the next question maybe, but that lack of validation that if AI is doing the right thing for me or not, it gives me so much information, how do I trust it? So there are some hesitation on people of using it, and people who have been spent years developing their own craft, and now they can see that someone else is doing their job practically the same way or even better. There is a natural human tendency to get resistance. So the change is hard, as you know, but it will take time for someone. But those are the barrier resistance for individual to organizational perspective.
Yeah. And how did you overcome that resistance with
Yeah.
the people who are like, oh, AI is going to take my job? I think that's the biggest one, right? That
Yeah.
people don't even want to touch it because they're like, oh, I'm going to be out of the job if I adopt this, right?
Right. So I think one of the key problems I mentioned earlier was training, like coaching them the right thing, that this is not taking away their job. This is not an autopilot. This is more of a co-pilot, that it is an assistant for you to do your work. As analogy I say often in my team is like, think about the recorder. When the recorder was introduced, it didn't take away the job of a musician. Actually, it amplified their job because they can sell more music, they can play more music. It's very similar with even in the computer, when computers came in 60s and 70s, where people thought that no longer we won't need this many people to run a bank. Now we need more teller than before. So there are a bunch of cases where AI will help them to do more stuff than before. I think, and my bet is that it will actually create more jobs than it will take away. People will find different ways to do different things. There will be some disruption initially, but it will work. So that's the training and knowledge you need to tell your team members. I think one key factor in this training, which people miss out a lot, is joy of working. Because imagine you are doing a data entry job and you are just manually entering information from one system to the other system for hours. End of the day, you are frustrated, you're not happy, but now the ease of work is so much that you just prompt saying, copy this data from this to that, do this work, and you just verifying if it works correctly or not. So those training is one of the key aspect, and showing the vision that what it will unlock it for you and how much time you can use it for doing other things which add value. That's really important. So training is a big one, and then showcasing the value out of that as well. So training them, showcasing the value, and then solidifying from the leadership that yes, this is for help you to do better what you do, and then to grow us as an organization and not improving the bottom line.
And some organizations have hard time selling it to their leadership that they should adopt AI for, similar barriers. So did you have to do this, or your leadership was kind of like on board to start with?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Forbes was very, very forward-thinking organization. So we were very fortunate that our leadership, we didn't have to sell it. In fact, we started talking about AI even before it became a mainstream thing internally. So, and we as a Forbes organization have access to all the different LLMs, all the different tools which you have access to, and we hardly get any resistance when we say we want to play around with this new tool. Can we take a look? And the first question is, yeah, let's go for it. And actually, our leadership ask us what tool you need so that we can expedite this. So we wanted to be in the cutting edge of it, and that's a good thing about selling the leader first. So if you have your leader is proponent of it, the adoption in the lower down the organization is natural and very organic, and that we are fortunate that we are there right from our CEO all the way to different C-suite levels.
And I wonder, what do you think about the organizations which the main goal for them to adopt AI is to reduce costs? So I'm hearing this, that, some VPs of engineering, they basically like, hey, we've been told we need to reduce costs with AI, and this is our goal. So what do you think about that approach?
Again, it depends on the business outcome. So if one of the key factor they want to achieve is reduce the cost and get the same output, yes, AI could be factor there. So if your goal is to reduce cost, AI can help you to achieve that. If your goal is to produce more quality work, you can do that. So it's the same case where if AI wasn't there, we were in the same boat. If your direct direction from top down says we need to reduce cost, the first aspect is which of the folks in my team is very expensive, which is, and all return on investment is more. Where can I cut cost? The concept is exactly the same with AI. It just, you can see more drastic change now because they can see that, oh, this person can do much more. Why do I need this person or that person? So I think the business outcome is the key thing here, that if your ultimate goal is to reduce cost, yes, you can do with AI. If your ultimate goal is to produce more quality work, yes, you can do with AI, because they are all assistant now. And the pace with which there is a disruption happening in the AI space as well is so much that you will, in 1 month, a new tool will come out and it will disrupt a lot of small industries. As you already know, a lot of SaaS players are disrupted by the use of AI tools.
Yeah. Great. And so, as you've been successful at adopting AI in your organization, I wonder what advice would you give to the quality leaders and professionals today to start on this journey, and what would you recommend them to be their steps?
Yeah, so the key thing I would say is if you are a leader, you need to be the first one to adopt the new technology. You need to roll your sleeves up and start exploring what AI can do, then relying on asking your team members to do it and sell you the vision. So I think that if your goal is to be a pioneer in that space as a leader, you need to first hand experience it. Once you experience this as a first hand leader, it will be really easy to come to see the value and then show the value to your peers as well as to your team. So that's number one thing, and something which you should avoid. Let's say you are sold on the leadership, you are sold on the vision that AI can be transformative for my role, for my organization. What next you should do? Something from the engineering strictly perspective I can talk about is that don't blindly trust the generated code, because it can generate code and it will respond back saying, yeah, I did it, it looks good. And when you test, make sure you test it thoroughly. And which is why I feel with the AI generated code, the importance of testing it will be even more than before. People think that testers' job will go away because of AI, because AI can do the testing. Yes, it can do the testing, but it will not have the correct business context as earlier before. So I think the key thing to avoid is don't blindly trust the code. Don't rely on AI generated test without meaningful assertion. Like it can generate test, but if the assertion doesn't make sense, don't accept it. And you need to have a guardrail behind it. Treating AI as more as a deterministic tool, that's one of the mistakes. It is probabilistic. It is not deterministic. Don't blindly trust what it is saying. And always have, I would say, a rollback strategy. So when AI produces a bunch of so much code, and then it's too late until you decide that, oh, now how do I roll it back? Do I start from scratch? So that's something you should avoid. And the last thing I should also, and this is very early in this phase, but I think companies should start thinking about budget for AI too. The token usage is real when you start, unless you are paying $200 cloud subscription, yes, but that's a fixed cost. It's not going to be like that forever. You will be per usage cost, and that you need to figure out that are you budgeting that, how much your team is consuming token overall and how much it's going to cost you.
Yeah, you made such a few really good points. The cost of AI, it's not free, right? And now a lot of people are start using multi-agent systems and whatnot. So we definitely have to keep track of that, right?
Right.
And I love the point that you brought up about don't blindly trust the test that AI creates. Because I've heard a lot is that AI is too agreeable. Like if you ask it to create tests, it would create the tests that are passing rather than criticizing its own code. Have you guys run into that? Did you observe that? And do you just put the human in the loop, or how do you solve for that?
Human in the loop is the only way. So generally we don't even judge that this whatever code is generated for our test code is generated is human generated or AI generated. We assume that it's AI generated, but a human has always reviewed it. And I was just looking at our Copilot metrics the other day, that how much code we have accepted generated by AI, and the number is astoundingly high. So I was telling my team that, are you guys checking that if the code is correct or not? And the answer is yes for all of them. So for us to solve it as human in the loop, we have multiple layers of PR checks. So like we need 2 approvals on a PR. We make sure that for any test plan AI writes, we have 2 approvals for reviewing the test plan as well, because before we didn't have luxury to do that. It was taking significant time for someone to write, then someone to review. Now writing takes away less time, so we can spend time reviewing the things. So now our code review cycle is longer, and which is expected, and we have pushed that longer code review cycle is what we need. We should have a reduced development cycle now. Code review cycle has to be longer.
Yeah, this is, I think, going to be a next challenge for organizations, the review fatigue, right? Because all you do is review the code, and that gets kind of, you lose kind of track of like, okay, how much code did I review already, right? So there are I've heard some ideas there as to like breaking down the, PRs and make it in smaller chunks to avoid the, reviewing fatigue. because that's a different skill. And like
Oh,
reviewing,
100%.
I feel like reviewing the code, I can get more sleepy than writing it, because writing is kind of
Yes.
like more active work, right? But reviewing it is like reading, like you can fall asleep, right?
So the way I solve it, and this is all my personal side project hustle, how I solve it, I have two agents running on the side. One is Codex, one is Claude Code. And then whatever code Codex is generating, I have my Codex asking like, dude, your job is just to critique this code. I don't have time to review all the code, but this is my contextual
Yeah.
knowledge. And it just does it. And now I think I was talking with watching the podcast, OpenClaw founder was talking with, so in another podcast, he's like, I don't write to my AI agent. I just talk, which is what I started doing it as well. Because if I write every single thing to my AI agent, it takes so much time. And now I just convert my speech to text and I paste it there, and it saves so much of my time. I'm talking like I will talk to a human, and it understands. And then I'm like, oh, now you do this, now you do that. So that is helping me in a way to reduce that fatigue. But I get you, it's a lesser of two. Earlier people used to get work fatigue. Now they are going
Yeah.
to get a review fatigue. So
Yeah. Did we imagine like 3 years ago that we would be talking to AI agents to review our code, right?
uh,
Like we came so far so
I know
quickly.
my wife was joking with me because I have that open class set up on my Telegram app, and like, you spend more time talking to your AI agent than you spend
Then you talk to me,
with me.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we used to spend time on the phone, and now we spend time talking to agents.
so talking to agent. Yep, 100%.
I hope that we can keep our human. I'm glad that we're talking right now, and I'm not talking to your agent, to keep our humanity
For sure.
intact. Well, I thank you so much for sharing all of your experience with AI and your AI adoption. I'm happy to hear that Forbes is such a forward-thinking organization, and that you had such a huge success with adopting AI in software delivery. That's really great to know. Any last words for our audience?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was pleasure talking about AI, and as I know you, I'm so passionate about AI. I can talk about AI for hours, but I think I would end it in a one closing thing, giving one piece of advice is, as you mentioned, the fear people have about losing their job because of AI, and I feel AI will, as I mentioned in that answer, that AI will not replace engineers, but AI will shape or reshape engineering into a discipline of orchestration, validation, and reliability. So people will be focusing more on orchestrating, validation, and reliability of the work than actually doing the work, because doing part is being taken care of, as it does really well, and it's getting better and better as the day go on. The problem which we really need to solve is how do we validate that it's doing the right thing, and there is a huge progress needs to be made in that space.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your vision, and thank you for being here. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am fairly watch LinkedIn space for a lot of my content, not my content but other people content in the similar space, once a day. So I'm active, so feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And or yeah, LinkedIn is the only space I'm more involved in than X or any other space, but yeah, always open to connect.
Amazing. Thank you, Ronak, and thank you for our audience for being with us today.
Thank you so much.